All right, this is a good one. A person who could only train 3 times a week, do you think they could build a pro caliber physique? So they're assuming because they're only, like, that's the thing, only training 3 days a week, that they can't necessarily build something that's on the special side. And I think oftentimes, like, we assume we need to be in the gym 5, 6 days a week. Like, that's kind of the old myth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can speak personally. Like, I've trained 3 days a week all through my 20s and all through my 30s. And I ended up turning pro in my late 30s. Probably would have got it a lot sooner if I would have hit the right shows. But I built a pretty good physique just training 3 days a week. And that was because of the effort level, the quality of training, always wanting to be progressive in the gym. And most of the time, well fueled, other than just preparing for shows. I was always well fueled
Mm-hmm.
filled in my off seasons. And if you're progressing the loads, you're progressing the reps over time, the volume goes up over time. So I just think that there's an insecurity about volume. I think that's the big thing. Like, I think we always question, are we doing enough?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where probably this question stems from. And I think, again, if you have good work ethic, you're progressive, you're eating enough, things we just talked about for the beginner still applies in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming this person is asking because they obviously have a busy lifestyle, right? Like, I could only get to the gym 3 days a week. That kind of tells me, like, if this person like tried to train more, then stress levels might be even be amplified. And if that's the case, then you have to kind of question, like, what would their training quality be like if they're actually trying to do more?
Mm-hmm.
It might even be worse. Like, they might not be getting good performance. Their recovery might be hampered. So maybe 3 days a week is optimal. Like, that
Yeah.
is the optimal amount of training for this person as far as the frequency, as far as days per week. And I mean, 3 days a week, we can do a lot of creative things, right? With training, like,
A
we could hit
lot.
body parts once a week. We could hit body parts twice. We could even do full body splits where
Mm-hmm.
you're hitting body parts 3 times per week. So there's different ways we can still cover the principles
Mm-hmm.
out of the muscle and strength
Yeah.
pyramids. What's your thoughts on it?
It's. I'm glad that you kind of put these in this order because really, some of the stuff we talked about earlier with the quality of repetitions and putting that effort into each repetition, you can do that easily in 3 days a week. You could arguably do that in 2 days a week. But yeah, like you were just saying, like if you say that you have a 4 day a week program, and 3 of those days low stress, you get good workouts, all the repetitions are real high quality, and then that fourth day you're going in there stressed because you got to jam it in there real quick, and then maybe your reps are fast and you're trying to hurry up and go through the workout. You probably would have been better off just resting that day and recovering,
Yeah.
and just sticking to the 3 day a week program.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The great thing about the muscle and strength training pyramids is it's kind of like the principles that are there. It's kind of like choose your own adventure, build your own, journey. You just take those principles and you fit it into whatever schedule works the best for you. I mean, the recommendations like we talk about are in the pyramid books are 10 to 20 sets a week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a recommendation, but beginners, do they even need 10 sets a week like we just talked about? They could probably get away with 6 or 8.
Yeah.
Do you ever train 20 sets a week?
I can't count that high.
I mean,
No.
there's another.
No, just because of the years of trial and error that
Yeah.
I've gone through. So I've kept data for myself. So it's like, cool, I could look at 10 to 20. That's a broad general guideline to kind of follow.
Correct. Yeah.
But over the years, I've realized like 10 to like more towards 20 would be way too much for me. I won't be able to recover.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my baseline's in the neighborhood of like 6 to 10 per week.
Can you fit that into 3 days a week?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
So my thought is this, like anytime if you're trying to fit in training to where like you're heading to the gym and you have resentment, you're just like, oh gosh, I
or
gotta go.
dragging yourself.
Oh gosh, I got deadlifts, or oh gosh, I got squat. Like even if it's just an exercise, like if there's a resentment towards an exercise, like where do you think your effort level is going to be when you're there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be excited to do it. So
Yeah.
instead of doing your 4 sets with one in the tank or whatever you're trying to do, you're like, okay, I'm only going to do 2 sets.
Yeah.
Or you do the 4 and it's like, yeah, you had like 5 in the tank there because you weren't really trying.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if 3 is like the max number of days you can train, but every time you step foot in the gym, like there's no resentment, there's nothing but excitement, you're well recovered. Like, what do you think you're going to do in the gym when you're there?
That's super productive.
You're going to crush it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we said crush it in this podcast, but it's
way
true.
Too many.
You're going to crush
it. Way too many. But yeah, I mean, I feel I've written many a program with 3 times. I've taken many a program that was 5 days a week and rearranged the volume and took the sets that we had spread across 5 days and put it into 3 days. And sometimes I even like shave a set, or, you know, if I've got somebody doing 15 sets of chest, if I'm going to put that into 3 days a week, I might just drop that down to 13. Is your body really going to miss 2 sets? Especially if, you know, those 13 sets are more higher quality than the 15 sets we were doing before.
And then maybe dropping 2 sets off, your fatigue goes down a little bit lower. So therefore you got more energy for the other sets you're doing and you get better performance. Yeah. So let's say you lose 2 sets, but then you pick up lower reps. Well, it's a wash. You just...
Well, there's that. That's all basically, what is that, unquantified or unnumerical volume that you've just actually picked up, even though you numerically dropped 2 sets.
Yeah.
So I do that many times. So the answer to that question is, in a nutshell, yes.
I think you can. Of course, you got to take in consideration like genetics, you know, people's symmetry. You also take the mental aspect, right? Like the hunger aspect, like what we talked about earlier, right? Like people are asking, like, how do I avoid hunger? Well, right there, you have to have the mentality. Like if you're trying to be a pro caliber physique, a lot of it's mental. So you have to have the mental capacity to kind of like diet hard and diet for long periods of time and things like that. So there's a lot more than just the training aspect.
Correct. Yeah.
But I mean, if all you got is 3 days a week, and factor this: 3 days a week for 1 year of training, you'll probably make progress. 5 years of training, you'll make progress. 10 years. And even if, let's say, it takes you a year or 2 longer to get to a certain goal because you're not training as much, if that's really the case, you're inevitably going to get there if you just keep going.
Yeah.
So you have to have the perseverance, and this is a long game too.
Yeah. And you brought up an excellent point. I mean, sure, 3 days a week, we're saying yes, but if your nutrition's junk, you know, and you're eating Pop-Tarts and your protein's low and your adherence is not great, you get 3 days a week, like maybe 30 weeks out of the year, but then the other 20, you're like missing some altogether. Yeah. Then there's probably the answer is no. So you brought up a great point there, Jeff.